Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin Bischoff and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Home Building Hub. You're with Colin and co-host Darren Brennan as always. And today we will be covering a topic right back at the start, Darren. And this is something that sort of got raised through various questions and things like that, just keeping it really simple. So basically we're going to cover what to budget for when building your new home. And for all those who are kicking off their process and their journey, this is really targeted for you because we do see it's common for people to just jump straight into shopping without having a little bit of homework done up front. So we want to map out for you, I suppose, number one, here's the process you should take loosely in terms of getting yourself from, finance through to the right building quote. And then number two, we're going to highlight specifically what are the items that you should look for and list in a basic budget template, which we will actually put a copy for you as well. So Dazza, how are you on this fine Sunday morning today, hey?
Yeah, unusual, mate. Sunday morning, but no, going well, mate. Looks like spring is certainly well and truly on us now. A bit of nice weather yesterday, and mate, it's heading in the right direction, which is great. I really like this topic. I think it's interesting. You know, we often come across this stuff on a regular basis where people are talking about their budget and then realise that they've been given a really strict budget to stick to by their broker, and they realise that all of a sudden they're right on the limit of that. And what does that look like? And if there's anything that pops up along the way that they're unaware of, then they're just under all this stress, this financial stress to work out how am I actually going to afford to, do what I need to do to finish this home off. So, yeah, it's certainly a great topic, mate. So look forward to chatting through it.
All right, so I'll kick off the first bit, which is going to be the process, and then Darren will cover off on the items in your budget to account for. And really, this is to help you flag some of those things you may not have realised. And some people might look at this and go, well, that's pretty obvious. But for a lot of people, it's not upfront. It's an overwhelming experience. So we want to highlight some of those things for you. So it's a super common mistake, I think from the get-go, which we've shared many times, super common mistake for people to shop before they get finance. So in terms of the process, that's the first mistake people make, and you shouldn't make it. Don't do that. You need to get a bit of a game plan, understanding, where your budget sits, because there's no point shopping for a house that's way beyond what you can afford, and because that really just doesn't help the process. You'll get lost and confused and frustrated with it. So starting there is really important. And even to this day, Darren, it's surprising how many people are out there shopping with no idea about their finance capacity. So that's definitely the first step. So what we'll do is we'll go through a bit of a guide, okay? So maybe worth highlighting too, Darren, this is based on budgeting. We've covered so many topics in this podcast around conveyances and all this sort of stuff, like detailed level. This is a bit more of a high level, discussion. And one of the first things we always encourage you to do or get a broker. That's a broker, not go to the bank. A good conveyancer. Both of them with experience in new home construction, and a really good, reliable, trustworthy builder consultant. If you get those three resources on your team, then you're good to go. And here's how the process will work. So as I said, start with finance, get a capacity, get a minimum and a maximum sort of understanding. Can I borrow $750 to $850? Somewhere in there, knowing that you can afford $900. If that's where it sits, that's pretty helpful. It's helpful for a builder to get a minimum and maximum down the track when you're at the quoting stage, which is why you sort of need to know what's my worst case and my best case. Okay, so that's number one.
It's an interesting one, what you just said then, Colin, too, is so often people are very cagey about handing out that number to the builder's consultant, and I'll tell you my budget after you've given me a quote. But, what happens at that point is if you're not giving that information over, is that the builder's consultant starts to think that you're just wasting their time. And so they don't give you quite as much love. And then you're like, well, look, I didn't really show a lot to me because, you know, uh, you're wondering if they're judging you as a person or whatever. No, they're judging you because you're not being truthful to them and not being open to them. They want to be open with you. So just don't be afraid of it. In the end, tell them the budget. If they can meet it, great. If they can't, they won't. But at least you know exactly where you stand rather than wasting their time and finding out that, the house you like is 100 grand more than you can actually afford. And then they just go, well, what a waste of time it was for the building consultant. They can tell you pretty quickly, you go, I've got a budget of 500 grand for my build. And they go, well, the cheapest I've ever sold one of these is 650. You're like, I've got a problem here, so yeah, understand what that looks like, I guess, and be open with the building consultant.
Yes, and we have covered that before. And the other side of that is if you go low and say, oh, look, my budget is X, and the consultant comes back with a plan that's 20 squares because you've given them a lower budget and that you don't want a 20 square home, you want a 25 square home. Like we've discussed before, the reality is that new home sales consultants are not real estate people. They don't represent a vendor. They have a set of pricing already predetermined. That house costs that much.
Yeah.
And then here's the promotion, here's the inclusions. So they can play a game a little bit with discounts and promotions, yes. But in terms of getting the quote to you, their mission is to get you the best quote they can get you. It is that simple. So you want to say, hey, 20 squares my minimum. I want a 22 square ideally. Here's my budget, minimum, maximum. What can you give me? Let them come to you. So in order for that to happen, you obviously need a good finance broker to get your budget. And I think number 2, Darren, is just spend some time doing some education stuff like podcasts like this, builder websites, etc. Get yourself familiar with the process, some of the floor plans, etc. And it might be land as well. Do some shopping. Openlot.com.au, for example, shows you all the estates just to get a feel for things, because it's hard to budget until you know the general gist of, well, what is it that I can budget for? I need a bit of a guide. So that's step 2. Spend some time in education.
That'll also help you choose a location, because obviously, if the closer you get to the city, the more expensive the land price generally is. The closer to other amenities often could be the land price is 10 or 20 grand more expensive. So, that helps you choose that location, because you might want to live, somewhere, but you might have to be a 5Ks down the road to actually make that almost, fit your budget rather than go the other way.
Yeah. And you will find it challenging as a person trying to work out and educate yourself on that stuff, because you will see builder promotions offering, what looks like really good value. And you'll also see house and land packages that are entry level. And you think that you can get what you saw at the display home for the advertised house and land package. And it's not the case. Your perception to reality is different. So it's a matter of understanding that the realistic price for a house in that estate, you need to get to that point. Yeah. And by looking at builder websites, by looking at realestate.com listings and that sort of stuff, it won't get you to that point. Ultimately, discussing with a builder consultant will get you to that point. But I guess for step 2, it's really about just start the process of getting a feel for what's out there, what's being advertised, what's being promoted, and just start saving some information on that. Moving to step 3. I should say that is step 3, phase 1 of shopping. So step 1, finance first. Step 2, get some education without the shopping part, websites, etc. Step 3 is now you're moving out there, you're going to display homes, you're going to land offices, etc. Start talking to people a little bit and get a better feel for what is realistic. So this is that moving through from perception, what you saw online, down to reality. So you're starting that process. Okay, so the reason you do phase 1 shopping, you don't really need to leave your details everywhere. You're just getting an idea, like how much is this house as displayed, or if people build it on average, how much is this, or can I afford this? Can I afford that? You're just starting that process so you can move to step 4, which is putting your basic budget together. So if I ask you in step 1 to do a budget, which is logical, you don't even know what the base price is. You have no idea. So you need to actually go through these phases to put that stuff onto a spreadsheet, which we can share a link to one, which is really basic for you. That's sort of step 4. Okay, start putting those numbers together. Okay, my overall budget is 850. Okay, so I'm going to do, okay, it's 450 for the land in this location. Leaves me 400 for a house. It could be that you, like Darren said, 5-10 kilometers further down the road, now it's not 450 for the land, it's 350 for the land. So that means you've got more room in the house. So you can play around with those numbers, and it's quite common for people to have to sacrifice one or the other. There's no right or wrong. Like picking the right location, building a smaller house or a house that costs less is right for some people. But for other people, they prefer to move further away, get a bigger block, get a bigger house. Like you do what's right for you. Yeah. So that's sort of just that initial putting the budget together to get started. Now you can move. You got some numbers there. Now you can move to phase 2 of shopping, which is presenting your budget, minimum and maximum, to a few builder consultants. So when you went through, I guess, step 3, the initial shopping, you would have started to take note of some consultants and some builders that you sort of felt, yeah, they're probably for me. And there's 2 or 3 or 4 of them. They're the ones you should go back to and move into that next layer. And you say, okay, I mentioned you before, we're looking at a few options here. Here's my budget, right? And ideally, if you can, try and put a little list there of your needs and of your wants. Okay, I need a 20 square home with 4 beds. I want a 22 square home with 4 beds. I need higher ceilings. I need 20 mil stone bench tops. I really want 40 mil stone bench tops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can go through all that sort of stuff. And if you give that budget, needs and wants to a consultant, now you've given them everything they need to give you a proper quote, not a quote that actually doesn't service what you're looking for because you just went lower, like Darren said earlier. Okay, so that's step 5. That's getting to phase 2 of shopping, and you're starting to really move to the next process, which is fine tune the budget. So once you're getting these I guess, meetings in place with consultants and they're giving you more information. It might be some are already off the bat, they're giving you quotes, but some are just giving you, yeah, that house usually is this price and that house is usually this price. Just getting you a guide. That's when you go back to your budget in step 6 and just fine tune that budget. Okay, so that is, you've got more education, you've got more understanding, you've got more numbers, then go back to the budget and massage that back to reality. And moving from there, you're going to get some building quotes. Okay, so that's that.
I think
6.
one of the traps in number 6 too, Colin, is builders will charge different prices for the same thing, and don't expect that they'll, if I gave the example of a dishwasher, one builder will charge $800, and the next builder will be $900 for a dishwasher, and one might be in a promotion and one might not be, and again, just depending on how they run their price book and how they price things up. So don't necessarily shop on the items themselves, shop on the end price of that quote with everything you want in it. And that's what sort of goes into your budget, is that end price with all those things in it, not so much as, going back to the builder and saying, his dishwasher's $100 cheaper than yours, but their overall quote's $1,000 cheaper than the one which has got the cheaper dishwasher in it. Look at the end number and work with that, I guess.
It's very common. Site costs can be so different between builders, as we've discussed before. And the point of this, again, is to keep it simple. So you're going through these phases of shopping. You now got a few consultants that you sort of like talking to, and now they're moving to the point where they're getting you some building quotes. The last stage, really, of this process is to compare the quotes properly. Identify not just the inclusions, but also understand what the exclusions are. Are you getting fencing and landscaping and a clothesline, a letterbox, blinds, all these things? Great. If you are, fantastic. You can expect the quote to be more, but then you don't have to lump out 20 or 30 grand after it's built. Or is it a builder that doesn't do that stuff? They don't do turnkey items, and you can get the house built because you're budget conscious or because you want to do your own landscaping stuff later. None of it's wrong, none of it's right, but you just got to have it understood in terms of the basic budget. So that sort of leads to the next bit. I guess you let the consultants do the shopping or the comparisons for you. This is a really common one for us. Most clients try and compare themselves. They've got 3 or 4 quotes and they're like, oh, this builder's cheaper. When we look at it and we dive in, because Darren, myself, and anyone in our industry does this every week, and what we call apples to apples comparison, you need that done by a builder consultant because they know what they're looking for. They're obviously trying to push forward their positives, and that's really what you want. It saves you time. Just let them do it. Okay, so in a short fire, I guess, list, here it is. Finance first. Always do that. Minimum and maximum budget. Step 1. Step 2, spend a bit of time on education, podcasts, websites, no inquiries, just general education.
Yep.
Step 3, phase 1 of shopping. Get out there, go to displays, go to land offices, talk to people, get a feel for the builder, a feel for the estates, a feel for the consultants and the salespeople out there. Start working through, I sort of like that one and that one. And that's phase 1. Then you can start putting together a budget, which is really basic: house, land, etc. And we'll go through those items in a second. And then once you've got that basic budget, move to phase 2 of shopping, present your budget and your needs and wants list to a consultant. Let them do the quoting and the work from there. And you're getting yourself to phase 3, which is detailed quotations. Okay, so you might have 2, you might have 5 from the builders that you sort of liked. And lastly, compare the quotes properly. Let the consultants do that for you. So that's 7 steps, Daz.
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, I think obviously when it comes to the budget itself, we've got a pretty comprehensive list here that we'll share with you now. But I guess it's a really good starting point to start to line those up, and you'll be able to jump on our website and grab one of these from the resources tab as well. That allow you to quick, easy spreadsheet to work with. So. But those items would be the land. So obviously the land price that you're looking at purchasing. And again, you might be looking at 2 or 3 different land estates. So you may need to run 2 or 3 different versions of this because that's sort of the kickoff point. You might run it you might be also doing them per builder to get a bit of a feel for where does it sit on 3 different cases, right? So then you've got the house. When we say the house, we're talking about trying to work out what the completed price will be. So not just the base house price, not just the quoted price, but the price with all the other bits and pieces included the builder's going to do for you. So if you're going to go to their colour selection center, ask the question, how much money would I normally spend in that colour selection center? If I'm a single story purchaser or I'm a double story purchaser, what should I be allowing for that generally? And again, you might also have to set a budget on that yourself to keep yourself under control because, we often see people go into the colour selection centres and go a bit crazy. Some are really quite restrained and go, I've got $5,000 to spend, and that's all they spend. And, I know recently I just had a guy spent nearly $200,000 and he bought all sorts of stuff that I couldn't believe that he was buying, and it would be magnificent, but, he bought bench tops for his kitchen that cost more than a car. Like crazy stuff. I just can't see the value in that myself, but I'm not also, that's not my own, different set of values. So understand those costs. Stamp duty, if it's applicable to you. So again, understanding, are you a first home buyer? Is it eligible? Do you get any discounts on that? Is it an investment property or is it an occupied property? So again, the stamp duty will vary depending on all those things. Conveyancing and legal fees. So again, you're going to need a conveyancer, so make sure you understand what their costs are. Other fees to do with the land settlements, so things like bank fees, settlement fees, etc. Land transfers, all that sort of stuff. Connection costs, so when you move into the home, what's it going to cost you to connect your water, power, gas, NBN, any of those sort of items? You've got to take into account fencing. So again, if it's not already in the house price, make sure that you put an allowance in there for your fencing. You're going to need to put it up at some point. So make sure you've got some funds set aside for that. Landscaping, again, is it being done by the builder? Are you going to be doing it yourself? Are you going to get a landscaper in to do it for you? What are you looking at doing there? Things like furniture and appliances. So again, if you're a first home buyer and this is the first place you're moving into, what does that look like for you? Or if you're already, had a home before, you've probably got all those things and you're just moving them along with you. So no stress. Insurance. And what we're talking about here is your house and contents insurance once you actually take possession of the home and move in. Other ones to be aware of would be things like council rates, so getting understanding what that looks like. Contingency, and what we mean by contingency is understanding if your land's not titled, do you need to allow for some additional funds if there's any delays? And what does that look like? So the contingencies to do with delays, and if those delays come up, what cost do you need? Because again, it gets people unstuck. We've seen it a lot where, it's anticipated titles will be 12 months and they end up being 18 months or 24 months or even 36 months. And all of a sudden, those costs start to escalate significantly. You might be up for another $20,000 or $30,000 if you're buying an untitled block, and it takes 3 years to title. So be aware of what those things look like and allow for that if you think that it's necessary. Talk to the builder consultant again about how reliable is this developer at getting their titles on time. If you're dealing with a big company like a Stockland or a Villawood Properties or something like that, generally they're pretty good. They're going to be, if they say they're 12 months, there's every chance they might even be early. Or if they're late, they might only be a month or two late, not a year or two late. So understanding who they are. And again, a lot of our developer friends out there are terrific at that. They get it right and they really care about that. But then there's also some blokes who wear broadroom hats that we call cowboys out there that really don't care less and take a hell of a long time. And there can be issues that pop up along the way that are inevitable, and the developer can't actually, predict that that's going to happen anyway. So allowing for that contingency is really key. The other one in that one would be if in your contract there's any things like provisional sums for rock, etc., allowing for that, making sure that you've got those things up your sleeve. And the other one is just other items. And I've just put down here, whilst we're recording, I've written down things like a removal list. Just having that in case. I was thinking to myself, what other items are going to other? And it could be you've been living in a city and you don't need 2 cars, but all of a sudden you move to the outer suburbs and you got to get to the train. Or you want to drive to the city now and you may need to purchase another car and you might not need anything flash, but again, you might be happy with a little $3,000 buzzer heading down to the train station. Who cares if it gets beaten up a bit? But you still got to allow for that if that's something you need to sort of consider. So, all those things come into play. Certainly use the budget sheet that we'll have on our website to start to really map it out so that you don't have any surprises along the way. And, even the best laid plans, unless you note them down, are often forgotten. So, it's a nice way to do that.
Yep. It's good. Contingency as well. I mean, it's just a general contingency column. Put on, depends what your belief is in terms of finance and budgeting. Some people say, I'll put 5% on there, whatever it may be. But even if you got $5,000 or $10,000, just in case something, I actually call it, in our business, Darren, we call it a hit the fan fund. So when shit hits the fan, you've got a bit of money there. So that's something I would put in just as much as you can afford to. But what I mean is, if you leave a contingency in there, at least your building quote that you choose has to be considering all of that as well. That's all. Where we see people get, they miss out on, I guess, that detail, and therefore they get caught down the track, don't they, Darren? So you see newspapers up in the windows and stuff like that because they've just gone too heavy on the house price itself, so, or potentially the land as well. Yep. So there you go. That's good. There's some good value there. I know we probably extended the discussion longer than what we thought, but I guess once we start talking about this, we do care. Like, we're passionate about it, and we want to make sure that you, as someone who's just starting the process, actually understands what's about to happen, and you're really well prepared for it. And this is a really good starting point to kick you off. So again, thank you for listening. Those watching, thanks as well. If you've got any topic ideas, guys, just jump on the website, send us an email. There's a link on there. And please, 5-star review on the platform you're on. We'd be truly grateful for that. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the Home Building Hub. As part of the podcast, we have to be a little careful to cover ourselves on a legal standpoint. So we do have a disclaimer. Whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered legal or financial advice. It does contain general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your own personal situation before you make any legal or financial decisions.
1,